Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back for your favourite show of the week, reflecting on an absolute cracker of a game. Aston Villa secured their place in the top 8 of the Champions League after a 4-2 victory against Celtic. Gareth, we almost didn't come on because we're too busy chatting about the game. I mean, what a match it was last night.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. When I just said to you, it's like a cup tie. Well, it was a cup tie, but it's like an FA Cup ties. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, Brendan Rodgers said before the game he didn't want it as a basketball kind of game. Well, that's the game that we won. That's the game that kind of suits us, and that's the game it turned out to be. But yeah, disappointing to sort of go to 2 goals up and absolutely cruising, and then to concede the 2. But second half, I thought the boys were brilliant again.
Yeah, fantastic. And myself and George mentioned it last night on the match reaction. We did a live one, but the crowd, props to the crowd, because it was a real special atmosphere, and it has been like for the Champions League nights, and we kind of need to bring that to the Premier League, don't we, and make it that intimidating atmosphere again for opposition.
Yeah, obviously watching it on the TV, it was noticeable that the crowd, you could hear them a lot more, considering like with Premier League games, it tends to go quite flat, doesn't it, in Premier League games for some reason? Like there's an expectancy that we're going to concede or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was a really good atmosphere. A few issues in the crowd by the looks of things, but apart from that, I thought it was really good. And the Tifosi, we should shout out to that as well, because that was fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. Ozzy Osbourne and all that, yes. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're very, very close to hitting that 5,200 mark. I think we're eight away. Obviously, the support the last few weeks has been incredible. We want to be on the road to 10K, so please do help us get there. Like, subscribe, and get your comments in below. So let's have a look at the main stats. Let's have a look at the tail of the tape, Gareth. Anything that you noticed here about kind of the general statistics across the game?
No, I think 64% of the possession is spent in Celtic final third, the field tilt. So that's always good to see. We shaded the possession, which was quite equal going into the second half. So that was good to see. We can see a lot of the defensive stats are obviously higher for Celtic, which you would expect. 23 clearances, for example, but. The passes per sequence is obviously one that we'd look at. 10 passes per sequence is reasonably quite high for us. We're usually about the 7s, so which is not too bad. But yeah, the one thing to sort of point out there was the goal kick length, which is obviously just the 8 meters from Martinez. So we can see that's quite low. We're looking at the 23s, a lot of passing, so outside from Emmy to outside of the box recently. So good to see that's a little bit lower. It's a risk and reward strategy, but it worked quite well.
It did. It was almost like kind of tempting Celtic to try and press him again back to that kind of situation. And once they did that, maybe it's just the quality of the opposition. They're not faced us before, but there seem to be more spaces opened up through the middle. Then, like, one of their players would try and press, and we were quite good and quick at exploiting that gap that that player had left.
Yeah, the issue with Celtic, I think, is that Brendan Rodgers does never, ever deviate from a 4-3-3. So, therefore, he's only got those 3 players really pressing across the front and one backing up. Well, what does he do? Because Ramsey and Rodgers obviously like to stay quite high near Watkins. So, you've got to take one of those midfielders, if not 2 back. So, they're lacking in pressing numbers going forward. And, yeah, we played it to a T, really.
Looking at the passing networks, anything again to sort of notice here?
Yeah, we've included the substitutes again because obviously there was another early sub with Cash going off. So we wanted to see sort of how that was going to pan out with Bogard. And yeah, a lot of mixture of positions here. But again, we can see a lot of right-sided build-up from us for a change. So nice to see Bogard, involved in that. And I don't think that was quite as noticeable during the game. But again, out to Dina as well, which didn't quite work so well this time. But yeah, a lot of build-up across the back again now. And nice to see Kamara involved as well.
Yeah. I mean, he was brilliant, as we were talking before we came on. But yeah, you mentioned Lamar Boharder. I talked about this with George. It's like with some of the young players, have almost got to prove themselves, in the arena with the first team, and it's kind of like they seem like they're a bit more trusting of him, of passing him the ball now. Obviously he was involved in the goal at Arsenal. He was involved in the second goal yesterday from a central midfield position. But then when he switched to right back, Conte was still quite confident in giving him the ball. And then obviously that makes a massive difference because it helps stretch the opposition that you're playing against.
Yeah, and I think the benefit of having Kamara inside that back three is that you can play that hybrid back three. So he almost played Benny Bogart. He wasn't going forward too much. He was that three, letting Dina go forward on the left hand side. So I thought he was better in central midfield than right back.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, I think he was the one you say about the players trusting him. It's obviously that the gaffer trusts him as well because he's the one that's the younger players that's sticking around the most and getting the most minutes.
100%. Quick look at the sonars. I know you're saying that you're trying to develop a little of a program here because it messes up with the early substitutions. But anything you're noticing about the kind of direction of players' passes?
Yeah, me and another fellow Villa fan, Gary, we're trying to sort of get this right, really, so we can include the subs because it's mucking things up a little bit. But yeah, it's interesting to see Bogart's position there is obviously skewed to the right because he played in that RCDM role and then he played on right back as well. So yeah, it's interesting to see that you say about players trusting him with the ball. Look at all those passes to the right from Ezri Konsa, by the way. So it gives you sort of backs up your point quite nicely. And yeah, nice to see sort of like Tielemans playing well sort of in central midfield. See a lot of passes going out to the wings there. So that works out about right.
Yeah, I wish we'd have done that against Monaco because that's where all the space was last week. But, what can you do? Celtic, quick look at them. Anything you noticed with them?
No, I mean, like I say, another typical 4-3-3 from them, really. But look how much on the right hand side they're having to sort of sit with two players, Nicholas Kuhn, sort of trying to stop Dina and the like down that left hand side, which is obviously where Ramsey was as well a lot of the time. So it was a real sort of area that we sort of concentrated on, really.
Yeah. Ramsey was excellent as well, and he seems to be coming back to that form where he's almost like he's faster running with the ball than he is without the ball, and that's a unique skill that not many players have.
Yeah, we wanted him to get back to those Morgan Rogers type player, didn't we? Sort of thing. And now you've got those two players who are doing that. It's fantastic. I thought Ramsey was really, really good last night.
Yeah. Shot map. We know how many shots we had. I mean, look at that in the box there. It's madness.
Yeah, we've added the sort of the XG was 3.79, but take the 7.9 away pretty much, or there and thereabouts for the penalty. So we created XG of 3, of just over 3. So it's really good to see. And like you say, those central areas, look how many shots are centralized there in those areas. Really good to see. 7 big chances, 7 shots on target. Could we have had more? Yeah, we probably should have done, really. Ollie Watkins could have had 9, couldn't he? So I mean, we could have had more, but we just still need to be that little bit more ruthless. But we got it done.
We did. And timeline in terms of the XG timeline. Again, anything to sort of noticeable here, mate?
I think it's just a second half performance again, Rich, isn't it? We can see that how much better we were in the second half. We started really well, and that carried on through the second half. It's a shame that penalty didn't go in, and then we could have really, really built on that, I think. But yeah, this is the non-penalty XG, obviously. But nice to see Rodgers get one at the end for the hat-trick as well.
Yeah. I mean, he slipped as well, so there must have been something in that box that whether they'd overwatered it or what, I don't know. And then the timeline in terms of the expected threat, I mean, generally consistent across. And like you say, mate, a good second half performance Celtic didn't really get anything going too much in that second half.
No. And all positive expected threat numbers for us, 1.6 is a good tally to have. And it just shows you sort of a lot of that is probably from our ball carrying, to be honest, and we'll see probably later on. But yeah, again, second half, you can just see those little bits of build up, those little upshoots in positive expected threat. So really good to see. Yeah, it's just a shame we conceded them 2 goals like we did.
Yeah, letting crosses in, easy crosses in again, which seems to be an issue at the minute.
Yeah.
Expected threat from carries. Now, I don't know if people can see this as closely, but it's still a great slide, newish one that you've brought in for us, Gareth. So just talk us through this one.
Yeah, I'll post it on Twitter afterwards so people can really see it. It's really difficult to try and get this on the screen, but yeah, I just want to say that, like, especially from carries, you can see the likes of Tielemans, Ramsey, and Leon Bailey up there as well, and even Boubacar Kamara to an extent. They're not massively high numbers, but from the likes of your midfielders, this is exactly what you want to see from them.
Yeah, yeah, and then we've got the one from passes. Yuri again up there, Ramsey again, and Bailey up there as well.
Exactly. And that's what you want to see. You want to see, especially your midfielders, being able to pass balls into high XT areas and stuff like that. So, yeah, again, another one that's really difficult to see, but we'll post it afterwards.
Yeah, no, really helpful stuff. And the chance creation, I mean, big areas in terms of that right-hand side for Villa. So, again, sort of backs up what you were saying before about the direction of the passes and not necessarily coming from that left-hand side that we've been so reliant on before.
Yeah, exactly. And look how many of them are key passes as well into really sort of. That's why the XT is quite high from us and from lots of Tielemans and Ramsey, because you can see them playing those crosses, those cutbacks from Jacob Ramsey, those balls into key passes into areas, into central areas from Yuri Tielemans and that. And like I say, there's 15 total chances created there, and at least 8 of 9 of them are key passes into the box, which is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, something that you wanted to highlight, and we focused on this a few times across the last few shows, is the distance covered. Now, I haven't looked at this, but now I'm seeing this Boubacar Kamara 15 kilometers. That is incredible.
15 kilometers from a centre half, by the way. You're not talking a central midfielder or a right back. That's incredible to get up and down like that, and to be into those. And he did go quite high. He played that Pau Torres role, I thought, almost to a T. Almost it was like an identical player, almost doing the same sorts of things, pushing high left into proper areas and stuff like that. And yeah, like I say, 12 touches in the opposition box from Ollie Watkins as well. And looks like those players are starting to do that little bit more. And, Ollie Watkins with 6 kilometres again, sort of really pushing the boundaries really there. And Tielemans at 13 as well in central midfield. These are much better numbers. Managers always want players to run because that is what creates and that is what gets you opportunities. And we can't fault that in this game from our lads.
Absolutely not. And I don't know if McGinn's on here or not, but he was a player who warmed up into the game, and second half he was fantastic again. Like, just sort of, but not necessarily a quiet influence on the game because he was a big influence on the game, but you get what I mean, like doing the nasty stuff, doing the dirty stuff, allowing like the likes of Bailey, Rogers, Ramsey to kind of carry the ball and carry that threat.
Yeah, like I said, I had lunch with my dad today, and he sort of brought up John McGinn. He sort of said he didn't really do much, did he? But I said, Dad, his work off the ball was incredible. I said, considering this is only his sort of second game back from injury and everything, and I thought like you summed it up quite well. He did a role and performed a role where you didn't have to see that much of him.
Yeah. The defensive shape, quite spread out Villa there. Looking at that, is that normal, or is that something that you picked up on?
Yeah, I noticed it and I was quite surprised, but I think it's more to do with the fact that we just tried to be more expansive, tried to sort of play in wide areas and support, and then having to retreat in those areas through, Celtic are pretty good side out in wide areas, and I think that's probably the main thing of it. But look how high Ollie Watkins is on average there in his pressing and everything else. So that's important.
Yeah, and we talked about, obviously he's covered quite a lot of distance. Obviously, we know he's just predominantly in the opposition half. But I mean, to be running and chasing down centre backs in the 91st minute and creating a goal is, certainly just sums him up really.
Yeah, and like we said it off camera, but that all comes down to running. It's a basic thing, I know, but if you're still running, you're still putting pressure on the opposition. And later on in that game, you're not giving them a chance. So we need to see more of that. Really, it's hard to do it week in, week out, Wednesday to Sunday. So now we've got a bit of a break in the Champions League. Hopefully, we'll see a bit more of that.
Yeah, and then the goalkeeping performance, I think Kasper Schmeichel can sort of come out of it with a lot of credit, particularly that second half, some of the saves he made. But yeah, anything that you noticed with the performance of the goalkeepers?
Yeah, I mean, with Schmeichel, it's a tough one because his goals prevented was only 0.08, but did he stand much of a chance with a lot of them? Probably not. I mean, his expected goals on target is 4.08, so we could say he's expected to concede 4 goals. which he did. So, I mean, and that includes the penalty, by the way, in this. So, it could be a bit less, but I thought he had a bit of a tough evening. I thought it was hard for him. But our goalkeeper didn't have much to do, did he really?
He didn't. I noticed he tried to come for a few crosses, which is good. Wasn't as commanding as I thought he could be, but at least that's a
We
step
spoke
in the
about
right
that in the last
direction.
pod, didn't we?
Yeah. At least he's coming for the crosses, which is a step in the right direction. Yeah. Last one there, zones of control. Pretty much, like you said, pretty dominant performance for Villa, really.
Yeah, especially in our defensive third, we can see there central midfield areas, and on the left hand side that little bit more. So yeah, it's kind of you could look at it two ways, I guess. We were quite dominant on that left hand side. Do we want to have a little bit more from that right hand side?
Yeah, maybe it could be to do with, obviously Bailey was the main driver down there, and he didn't because Bohard was on that side. He didn't necessarily get up to overlap him or double up.
I think Cash going off, sort of, even though we can always say, well, he's not the most offensive of players, it did upset the balance for quite a little while, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But overall, mate, brilliant for Villa, brilliant achievement to get in that top 8, and certainly now can look forward to one, really good tie against Bruges, Atalanta, Sporting Lisbon, or Dortmund. So yes, a good game to look forward to.
But we all want revenge for Bruges, don't we, Rich?
We do. We definitely want to play better than that kind of one. Yeah, fantastic. But obviously focus now on the league and the FA Cup. It takes a little bit of pressure off as well. I haven't got 2 extra games to think about. So, you never know. Could have a little FA Cup run as well, Gareth.
Be lovely, wouldn't it? I think that'd be lovely to try and get to Wembley, at least of a semi-final or final. I think that'd be really good for him. I think of the league is still his priority, isn't it? I think he needs to still finish higher up the table than we are. But Wolves on Saturday, so let's see how we go.
Exactly, mate. Thank you so much. Like you said, you're going to post this on social media. So where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm going to post it all on that one, Villa Analysis, and got some player dashboards and that as well on there. So yeah, we'll put it all on there.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be back with talking tactics on Sunday or Monday after the game on Saturday, hopefully with a positive result. We'll be back also with match preview for that and transfer talk. Obviously, there's so much going on still with Villa. We need to make a couple of signings, so fingers crossed we got them over the line. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Help us continue to grow. Get your comments in and any questions you've got for Gareth as well. Gareth, once again, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.